conditions are a major contributing factor, which is never spoken of when it comes to road accidents. Unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, the major road users who are pedestrians and cyclists don't have any facilities at all in most cases, and they mix on the main carriageway with speeding vehicles, and therefore the pedestrians as well as cyclists become major victims of motor accident fatalities. I think the importance must be given for designing of roads and having safe, segregated facilities for pedestrians and cyclists and other road users as well as cars.
So what do you think of new road constructions like the Southern Expressway, where only certain cars can go on it, and it separates sort of traffic from the Gall Road? I mean, if you're going, because on the Gall Road, if you want to go to the store, you take the Gall Road, but if you want to go to Gall, you also take the Gall Road. So do you think it's good to separate out traffic into expressways and highways now?
Yes, when traffic volume increases, it is a good idea to get on to separate them and have expressways. But again, when you are building expressways also, you have to make sure that safety measures are in place.
Of course.
And we have issues with the current expressway where they don't meet international motorway specifications.
Right. You can't pull over on that road. If you have an issue, like it's not, I mean, you can, but it doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
But anyway, talking about expressways, there were 2 fatal accidents that have taken place in the expressway so far, and that was also because drivers have not been using safety regulations, and there were no proper checks on whether they were, using safety regulations. And the thing is, once an accident happens, then it's when action is taken. Preemptive action is not taken. It's taken after an accident occurs, which is like post-action. But I think that you need to have preemptive action in place to avoid road accidents, because road accidents can be avoided.
Absolutely. And even on the expressway, for example, there is no speed control at the moment. It's only a very small effort being made for controlling of speeding. Now, although the speed limit is at 100 kilometers per hour, I think many of the road users are going much beyond that.
And it's also considered a fun thing to do. You can tell your friends how quickly you got
Absolutely.
to go.
And that should not be the case when it comes to driving.
Yeah.
And also talking about the number of vehicle drivers who drive without license, do you think enough is being done to stop, drivers who do not have the relevant driver's license or, relevant documents to use the road?
Absolutely right. Actually, when our institute started working on road safety, the fine for driving without license was only about 200 rupees. After our lobbying, they have now increased it to something about 2,500 or 5,000 rupees. We feel that it is still not enough. It should be much more, and it should be a penal fine so that people don't take the chance of getting onto a car and driving it without a license. Right. Furthermore, we should also penalize the vehicle owners who allow their vehicles to be driven by unlicensed people. Right. So that is not being addressed at all.
Like of accidents, how many are caused by unlicensed drivers?
About 26% according to research study done by the Moroto University, Professor Amal Kumarage. Almost 26% of the accidents are caused by drivers who are unlicensed. And the recent school van, which had a
was in Mount Lavinia,
accident in Mount Lavinia, is a case in point.
And also before we came on the show, we were discussing with Mr. Abhay Vikram about how insurance also plays a role. I mean, you wouldn't think, insurance, you wouldn't think road network, these contribute to accidents, because we always look at accidents either for driving under the influence, or either it's speeding or pure negligence. We don't look at certain other contributing factors that may not directly contribute but will indirectly have an impact on road accidents.
Absolutely, and in most other countries, insurance is a very effective tool which is used to prevent accidents. Now in Sri Lanka, the driver who meets with 10 accidents a year and the driver who meets with no accidents in 10 years pay the same premium. But in other countries, it's not so. So in other countries, the drivers know that if they have meet with accidents on a regular basis, their premium is going to go up, and sometimes at a certain stage insurance companies will refuse to give insurance at all.
Right.
So that kind of penal measures must be introduced in Sri Lanka as an effective tool to reduce the accidents.
Because some insurance marketing makes it look like getting an accident is winning the lottery. Like you get a free air ticket,
Yes.
you get cash, everyone's happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
That's
they
probably
encourage bad driving habits also in the advertisements they carry on the media. Like, you know, looking at pedestrians and meeting with accidents, and immediately their damage is paid off. So that the underlying message is when you are driving, you can look at the people on the road and not concentrate on the road.
But besides the insurance companies, you also can't get your, in other countries, if you get an X amount of accidents, they'll take your license away. And there's a record kept on your license. But here, each incident is treated as separate. Are we changing that?
Yes, the demerit system is being brought in, and this is going to be an important major step that will be helpful to reduce the accident levels. I believe the demerit system is being brought in by the government in the next few months.
Right.
And also, Mr. Abhivikram, do you think enough is being done for, you know, the pedestrians, for the cyclists who use the road? I mean, it's not just the vehicles on the road that you see. You have pedestrians. We have a large number of pedestrian population in Sri Lanka. Not everyone has, you know, access to their own vehicles. They use a lot of public transport. So you think enough is being done for the pedestrian population who are at the receiving end of most of these road accidents?
No, there isn't enough being done. In fact, there is a lot of road development taking place in the country today, and all those roads are being built for cars, so to say private cars. They have a road, a drain, and the walls and the fences of the houses. There's no room whatsoever being made available for the pedestrians or cyclists, and this is unfortunately the vehicle users in the country are less than 5%. 95% are pedestrians, cyclists, and who use other public transport. Now their interests are totally ignored.
Right.
And also, Mr. Abhivikram, do you see, I mean, we talk about road accidents, and road accidents are not alien to the world. It happens all over the world. Let's talk about Asia, because that's our closest, we're closest to. Talk about Sri Lanka's road accidents, comparing with other Asian countries. I'll make it even, you know, smaller, South Asian countries.
So how do you compare to India, for example?
India also, I think, unfortunately I don't have the statistics at hand with me. India is also lower than us, and most of the other countries are lower than us. In fact, in Sri Lanka, the accidents are much higher per 1,000 population or whatever than most other countries.
Wow.
Most other countries.
I mean, you can tell from driving, it just feels crazy here.
Yes. Yeah. I think you mentioned that you feel safer at home. I think a lot of people feel that. They are scared to get onto the road because you never know. Because maybe you don't do anything wrong, but somebody else will be doing it, and you might be the victim.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, however much you try to drive safely, there is somebody on the road who, you know, might not think like you, might not, you know, really think the way you think. For example, once I was driving, Indy, and you know, we've been taught in driving school, or it's a norm, that when you have a pedestrian crossing, you don't, even if it's a color light or traffic, you don't stop on the pedestrian crossing. You stop, you know, either in front of it or behind it. And I remember it was in Nugegod, and I was driving, and there's the traffic lights near the supermarket, and there was a traffic congestion there, and I parked, I stopped my vehicle before the crossing, because I knew that it was wrong to stop on the crossing, and the guy behind me was tooting, and when I looked at him, he was like, go in front, and I was like, look here, if I go in front, I'm breaking a road rule. But that shows that, not everyone on the road thinks like you do.
Absolutely, and this also brings us to another important point of enforcement. Law enforcement officers are doing a lot of work, but sometimes they are not properly focused. They are not looking at issues like what you mentioned. They just look the other way when those things happen.
Now, I feel like the police sometimes they look for one offense, like their boss tells them look for speeding, and they look for speeding. But if you take an illegal turn in front of them, they don't care. The phone thing they seem to catch, but they seem focused. They have a ticket book for one offense, and then they write that offense.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That is because the police hierarchy will decide that they should enforce the mobile phone law, or they should enforce the drunken driving law. But the policeman who is on the road should be educated to look at everything as a whole, and then ensure that the drivers follow all the road rules, not one or two.
So how do we change the culture? You mentioned if everyone's licensed, then we have some accountability, and if you can track offenses on that license, then there's some accountability. What other steps can we take to change the culture of driving?
I think there has to be a lot of retraining for police officers as well, law enforcement in general. Then also we have to talk about this in broad sense, rather than blaming the way accidents purely on speeding or some other issue.
Right.
What are the other measures that you think, Mr. Abhivikama, that would help to sort of curb this rapid increase in road accidents?
One of the things is vehicle conditions. Often one of the major causes for accidents is the condition of the vehicle. Now, policemen never check the condition of the vehicle. They never check the tires, for instance. They just stand on the road. Now, these must be enforced. Laws are there in place, but nothing is being enforced. Vehicle conditions is something that has to be looked at seriously right away. Then there are also few other issues like road conditions we discussed.